You lying scumbag.
Leave it, Matthew.
After the stunt he pulled yesterday?
Don't worry. The jury aren't stupid.
Makes you wonder how he can sleep at night.
Now, I've actually popped in to tell you. We've had some good news.
Do you think it worked in my favour?
Probably. After Jamie Mitchell's performance, we needed it. But let's not try that one again. Make sure you give the jury a few apologetic looks.
I shall hang my head in shame.
These seats don't look very comfortable. It's a good job I brought my cushion. You're going to have a nap that side. Oh, I'm glad I've got an end seat, because then I can nip out for a bag.
We may have quiet in court, please.
So why did you go to Nottingham with Matthew?
Well, Steve found out that I knew about Saskia, and I was afraid that I was going to end up buried in a forest too.
What happened when Mr. Owen found you at your hotel?
Well, Matthew had gone out, and Steve grabbed me and forced me back into the lift and told me to go up to the room.
So, Mr. Owen was aggressive?
Yeah. He started knocking me about and threatening me, and then when Matthew came in, he grabbed him. It was like we were both his prisoners.
What did Mr. Owen say to you both?
He told us that we were going to keep our mouths shut and that he was taking us away.
What was Mr. Rose's manner during all this?
He was terrified. We both were. Steve Frog marched us to the lift and Matthew managed to punch him and we ran away.
Where did you go to?
Back to Walford to see my brother. He's an ex-policeman. Matthew could see that we didn't have any choice. He had to go to the police and own up.
So, Mr. Rose confessed to your brother?
Yeah. He told him everything. I'd say he was relieved. I mean, he was on his way to the police station when he got arrested.
In all the time that you were with Matthew, did he ever say that he'd hit Miss Duncan?
Never. Not even when he was depressed or crying or when he completely lost it. He always said that he was trying to pull Saskia off Steve when Steve hit her with the ashtray.
Thank you, Mr. Marco.
I put it to you as Matthew Rose's ex-girlfriend. Your evidence is hardly impartial.
Then you're wrong.
Why is that, Mr. Marco?
Because after Matthew got arrested, he finished with me. I've been quite upset about it, actually.
Then there's always the possibility you tried to win him back.
No, you're wrong there too.
Mr. Marco, could you explain why your brother Beppe lost his job with the police force?
He withheld some evidence in a case, but then he resigned.
Now, which type of case was this?
Attempted murder.
And this is who Matthew wanted advice from before making his confession.
Well, yeah, he owned up. It's not like he was bent copper or nothing.
Oh, of course not, Mr. Marco. In the course of this trial, we've heard from several witnesses how Matthew Rose has a tendency to violence against women.
That's not true.
Then why in his statement to the police would he admit to hitting you?
We didn't realise he did it. He was asleep at the time.
You're saying Matthew Rose managed to hit you in the face and split your lip whilst he was asleep?
He was having a nightmare.
I've no more questions.
I have no questions for the witness, my lord.
Thank you, Mr. Marco. You're free to leave the court.
My lord, before I conclude the case for Mr. Rose's defence, may I, in the light of some very recent information, apply to further cross-examine Dr. Stewart? Dr. Stewart, you stated yesterday, when giving evidence to the court, that Mr. Owen could not have struck the blow that killed Miss Duncan.
That's correct.
That having studied the pattern of the skull fractures, you were convinced that the blow must have been struck from behind. In other words, by Mr. Rose.
In my opinion, that is so.
Now, Dr. Stewart, I've been looking into your professional history, and I believe the last time you gave forensic evidence in court was in July 1989. The Crown versus Flint.
That's right.
Now, although Mr. Flint was convicted, he was subsequently freed on appeal. Now, why was this, Dr. Stewart?
Because the evidence I gave had been called into question.
Well, it was rather more than that, wasn't it, Dr. Stewart? The defence pathologist was able to prove that your methods were unreliable.
Yes. Unfortunately, on that particular case, I made a mistake.
In other words, the forensic evidence you gave to the court was totally discredited.
Yes, it was, but
I have no more questions.
Members of the jury, I shall now adjourn early for lunch, after which you will hear closing speeches from counsel, and I shall start my summing up. Thank you.
Mr. Cherry, I need to have a word with you, in private.
My lord, I have requested that the jury remain out of court so that I can make application to call a final witness.
This is rather late in the day, Mr. Cherry.
The witness, Miss Owen, has only just approached me, Your Honour. I believe she holds vital evidence as to why my client did not report Miss Duncan's death to the police.
No doubt, Mr. Wolfe and Miss Mills, you both object?
I do indeed, my lord. We suddenly have a witness forced upon us at this stage.
I object most strongly, my lord.
I shall note, and I must admit I also share your reservations. However, in the interests of justice, I shall allow Miss Owen to give evidence.
Jackie!
Mr. Owen, this is your final warning. I will not tolerate any further outbursts in my courtroom. Do you understand?
I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Miss Owen, if you'd like to tell the court who you are.
My name's Jackie Owen. I'm Steve Owen's sister.
During the last adjournment, you approached me as I was leaving court. Why was that?
Couldn't stand by and do nothing. Had to tell the truth about Steve.
If you could explain.
I know why Steve wouldn't have gone to the police. It's because of what happened to my husband, Doug.
Please, go on, Miss Owen.
I first met Doug in 1985. As soon as I introduced him to Steve, they became great friends.
They developed a close relationship?
Yeah. It's the same as how Steve and Matthew's relationship's been described, only the other way round. Doug was Steve's father figure, mentor.
Well, I believe they worked together.
Yeah. Doug owned a few clubs. Steve ran them for him. It was a very happy time for all three of us. And one night, in 1993, there was a fight at one of the clubs. Some young guy had too much to drink.
What happened?
Doug went to throw him out. The guy pulled a knife. Doug lashed out to protect himself, hit the guy in the wrong place, killed him.
Was your husband prosecuted for this?
Yes. He pleaded guilty in court. Manslaughter. Got 10 years.
How did this affect him?
Doug wasn't a villain. He was a gentle giant. Couldn't handle it. One day he just couldn't take being locked up anymore.
I know this is painful, Miss Owen, but is it true your husband committed suicide?
Killed himself in his cell.
How did Steve react to this?
Same as me. He was devastated.
Would you say that this experience might have influenced Steve's actions in this case?
Definitely. If Steve cared for Matthew, there's no way he'd let him suffer the same fate.
You say he'd fear for Matthew's life in prison?
It's just the same. Doug just lashed out. He hadn't meant to kill anyone. That's why Steve would lie, not report Matthew to the police.
Why would Mr. Owen not have mentioned this?
Protect me, I suppose. He wouldn't want to dredge it all up again.
Thank you, Miss Owen.
Miss Owen, obviously with your giving evidence at this late stage, we do not have an opportunity to look into the events you describe.
I wouldn't lie about my husband killing himself.
I'm sure you wouldn't. However, if Mr. Owen was so devastated by your husband's death in prison, there is the possibility, is there not, that he lied in order to stop himself suffering a similar fate?
It's a possibility. I know my brother. If he had killed Saskia, he'd have held his hand up and admitted it.
Members of the jury, there is no doubt that both defendants were present when Miss Duncan met her death. Both freely admit to this and to their disposing of Miss Duncan's body in Epping Forest. I suggest that you have a number of key issues to consider. The first being, was Saskia Duncan's killing a premeditated act? In other words, did the defendants intend to kill her? You must then ask yourselves as to what the true nature of the defendants' relationship was. Was their relationship, as the prosecution described, so close that each has maintained the other's guilt as a means of hampering justice? If not, then the key to your verdict must be found in which of the defendants you believe. Who you believe will help you to determine if there is only one killer, and if so, who to convict for the crime, be it murder or manslaughter. Should you believe Mr. Owen is innocent and was merely protecting his guilty young protégé out of loyalty? Or should you believe in Mr. Rose's innocence and his being intimidated into silence by the guilty Mr. Owen?